The courtroom fell completely silent. An elderly billionaire couple was on their knees, begging the judge for one last chance to save their collapsing empire. Everyone turned around as the heavy doors opened. A young man, carrying absolute power in his stride, walked inside. No one recognized him until he quietly stopped in front of the old couple and said, "20 years ago, you left a 10-year-old boy in the cold because he wasn't perfect enough. Mom, Dad, do you remember me now?" The mother's face turned pale white, and her phone dropped from her hand. I never thought my own parents would betray me. People say blood is thicker than water. I believed that, until the day my billionaire parents looked me in the eyes and decided I no longer mattered. But 20 years later, I returned. Not as the unwanted son, but as the man who now owned every single thing they had lost. My name is Ethan. I was born into unimaginable wealth. My father built one of the largest real estate companies in the country before he turned 40. Newspapers called him a visionary. Business magazines put him on their covers every year. My mother came from old money, elegant, educated, and admired by everyone around her. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. But behind those grand mansion doors, we were anything but. When I was little, things weren't always bad. I remember my father carrying me on his shoulders through the gardens behind our estate. I remember my mother tucking me into bed every night. I remember believing they loved me. Maybe they did, or maybe I was simply too young to notice the cracks. Everything changed the day my little brother, Noah, entered our lives. He wasn't actually my biological brother. My parents adopted him after one of father's closest business partners died in a private plane crash. The media praised them for their kindness. "The billionaire couple opens their hearts," the headline screamed. "An act of extraordinary compassion." Everyone applauded. But no one knew what happened inside our home after the cameras stopped flashing. The moment Noah arrived, I became invisible. At first it was small things. Birthdays suddenly revolved around him. Family vacations became his choice. My soccer games were ignored, while his piano recitals became national events. Whenever relatives visited, Mother would smile proudly. "Noah is so talented. He's brilliant. He is everything we hoped for." Then she'd glance toward me and whisper, "Ethan is different." That word, different, haunted me. One evening, I finally asked my father, "Dad, did I do something wrong? Why don't you spend time with me anymore?" He barely looked away from his laptop. "No." "Then why don't you spend time with me?" He sighed heavily. "Ethan, stop making everything about yourself." Those words stayed with me, longer than he ever realized. I stopped asking for attention. I started earning it instead. Straight A's, sports trophies, science competitions, anything. But nothing worked. Every achievement was followed by another comparison. Noah would have done even better. I was 12 when I realized I wasn't competing against my brother. I was competing against an impossible fantasy my parents had created, and I could never win. By high school, Noah had become the face of our family. Magazine interviews, charity galas, business dinners. He stood beside my father in every photograph. I stood somewhere behind the cameras, hidden in the shadows. One Christmas changed everything. Father announced an important family dinner. "I have exciting news," he said. I thought maybe, just maybe, he wanted us both involved in the company. Instead, he raised his glass toward Noah. "I've decided who will inherit the future of Harrison Global. Noah has the vision to carry our legacy." The room erupted in cheers. No one noticed I was sitting there, still holding my untouched glass. But my grandmother noticed. She quietly squeezed my hand beneath the table. She didn't say a word, but tears filled her eyes. That was the first time someone silently admitted that what was happening to me wasn't fair. Grandmother became my only safe place. Every Sunday she invited me for lunch. She listened. She never interrupted. One afternoon she asked me, "Ethan, if money disappeared tomorrow, who would you become?" The question surprised me. "I don't know, Grandma." She smiled softly. "Good. That means you still have the chance to discover yourself. Remember, character survives when wealth doesn't." At that time I didn't understand. Years later, those words would save my life. When I turned 17, I secretly applied to one of the country's top engineering universities. I wanted to earn something entirely on my own. When the acceptance letter arrived, I was happier than I'd ever been. I rushed downstairs and my heart pounding with joy. "Dad! Mom! I got in!" My mother barely looked up. "That's nice." Father asked only one question. "What about Noah?" "He didn't apply," I replied. Father nodded coldly. "Then there's nothing to celebrate." I felt my excitement disappear in seconds. Later that night, I found my acceptance letter torn into pieces inside the kitchen trash. No one admitted doing it. No one apologized. I taped every piece back together. I still have it today. Because sometimes broken things remind us exactly where we started. Months later, everything exploded. Father called an emergency family meeting. His expression was colder than I had ever seen. "Ethan," he said, "we've made a difficult decision. You need to leave." I laughed nervously. "What?" Father didn't blink. "We're sending you away. There are arrangements." "I don't understand." "What did I do?" Mother folded her hands and finally looked into my eyes. "This house isn't healthy anymore." "Healthy? For whom?" Noah stood silently beside them. He never defended me. Not once. I begged. But Father answered with 6 words that destroyed my entire world. "You simply don't belong here anymore." I felt like the ground disappeared beneath my feet. Everything I owned fit into 2 suitcases. As I walked toward the front gate in the pouring rain, neither of my parents came outside. The only person standing on the balcony was my grandmother. She was crying. She pressed an envelope against the window glass, gesturing to me before she disappeared. I didn't know it then. But that envelope contained a secret document left by my late grandfather. A document that made me the rightful legal heir to the very land beneath my father's entire corporate empire. For 20 years I lived believing I had been forgotten. I had no idea that one signature and one secret document would bring me back. I worked dangerous jobs, slept hungry, and slowly built my own tech and real estate empire from scratch, always remembering Grandma's words. Never waste your pain. Build with it. Meanwhile, Karma was visiting my parents' mansion. The perfect son, Noah, turned out to be a complete fraud. He grew up spoiled, arrogant, and greedy. He stole millions from the family business, sold highly confidential company secrets to their biggest rivals. And when the banks came freezing the assets, Noah took the remaining cash and fled the country, leaving his elderly parents to drown in debt. The same parents who abandoned one child for being imperfect were now abandoned by the child they thought was perfect. Banks seized their cars, their assets, and their dignity. Which brings us back to the courtroom. The judge looked at the paperwork. "The anonymous billionaire investor has bought 100% of your debt, your company, and your mansion. He now owns everything you have left. And he is here today." My father fell to his knees as I approached him. My mother cried uncontrollably, finally recognizing the son they threw away 20 years ago. "Ethan, please," my mother sobbed, reaching for my hand. "We were wrong. We are so sorry. Please save us." The entire courtroom waited for my revenge. They expected me to throw them out on the streets. I looked down at them, my expression soft but firm, and gently pulled my hand away. "I am not going to ruin you," I said quietly. "You already punished yourselves. The son you loved destroyed everything. The son you abandoned rebuilt everything. I have cleared your debts. You can live in a comfortable, quiet apartment, but you will never see me again. You gave up the right to be my parents 20 years ago. I didn't keep their grand mansion. I turned that cold, bitter house into a beautiful home for children, a safe haven for kids who had been left behind by the world, renamed after the only person who loved me, the grandmother's home. A reporter once asked me, "Ethan, why would you do this after everything they did to you?" I looked at the dozens of children, laughing and running in the garden where I once used to stand alone, and I smiled. Because every abandoned child deserves the family I never had. Character survives when wealth doesn't.